Hello and welcome back to LCC News. Today we dive into a breaking development in global energy and geopolitics that's sending shockwaves through Washington and beyond. China has suddenly frozen its long-term imports of liquefied natural gas, LNG, from the United States, causing billions of dollars in losses and triggering a potential geopolitical realignment in the energy market. Meanwhile, Australia is stepping in to reap the benefits. This move doesn't just impact the energy sector. It may also deal a serious blow to former President Donald Trump's economic legacy and his ongoing 2024 campaign. According to multiple international trade and energy sources, Chinese state-owned energy companies have recently paused or delayed imports of American LNG, despite binding long-term contracts signed in previous years. Major U.S. exporters such as Cheniere Energy and Venture Global were caught off guard as several shipments to China were reportedly cancelled or rerouted to alternative markets, often at a lower profit margin. While no official statement has been made by Beijing, many analysts suggest this is a calculated move in response to growing tensions with Washington, particularly surrounding trade policy, technology restrictions, and national security. Former President Donald Trump, currently campaigning for re-election in 2024, has long touted American LNG exports as a core part of his America First energy policy. During his first term, Trump signed major energy agreements with China as part of the Phase 1 trade deal, aiming to reduce the U.S. trade deficit and boost domestic production. By freezing LNG imports, China is essentially undercutting one of Trump's key economic talking points, American energy dominance. Critics now question whether Trump's strategy has long-term viability, especially if trade partners can suddenly walk away. This development could be used by political opponents to argue that Trump's economic wins were based on fragile, transactional deals rather than durable policy frameworks. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the U.S. exports an average of $700 million in LNG to China each month. This pause represents a significant financial blow, not just to the energy companies involved, but to the broader U.S. economy. Export facilities in states like Louisiana and Texas, key Republican strongholds, are facing reduced throughput, threatening jobs and local economies. Investors are also expressing concerns about the long-term reliability of Asian markets for U.S. energy. Furthermore, LNG export facilities rely on long-term contracts for financing expansion projects. If confidence in U.S.-China energy trade wanes, it could slow down future investment and allow rivals to grab market share. While U.S. exports take a hit, Australia is stepping in as a major winner. Australian energy giants like Woodside Energy and Santos have seen a surge in LNG orders from China, with Beijing shifting its contracts away from the U.S. toward more politically neutral suppliers. Following years of strained relations, China and Australia have quietly restored energy ties, viewing Australia as a more stable and geographically convenient partner for LNG. This shift not only boosts Australia's post-pandemic economic recovery, but also strengthens its geopolitical position in the Indo-Pacific, especially amid ongoing US-China rivalry. So why is China making this move now? Experts believe this is part of a broader strategic recalibration. With growing restrictions on Chinese access to American tech and capital, Beijing may be using LNG as leverage, a way to remind the US that economic interdependence cuts both ways. It also fits within China's long-term goal of diversifying its energy sources. In addition to ramping up renewable energy, China is securing LNG contracts with Russia, Central Asia, and the Middle East to avoid over-reliance on any single supplier. In other words, this could be a geopolitical chess move by Xi Jinping, signaling that China will not tolerate economic coercion without retaliating in kind. The fallout from this decision isn't limited to just the US and China. European nations, already struggling to replace Russian gas, may find themselves competing more fiercely for limited LNG supplies. If the US can't maintain its presence in the Chinese market, it may flood Europe with excess supply at lower prices, or worse, scale back production altogether, tightening global availability. Meanwhile, Russia, Iran, and other US rivals are moving quickly to deepen their own energy partnerships with Beijing, potentially shifting the balance of power in global energy markets. Domestically, this is more than an economic issue. It's a political flashpoint. For Donald Trump, the LNG freeze undercuts one of his proudest economic achievements and may be used against him on the campaign trail. Rivals can argue that his deal-making with China was superficial and left the US vulnerable. On the other hand, Trump could turn this situation to his advantage by doubling down on protectionist rhetoric, promising to rebuild US energy, independence and punish unreliable trade partners. But the question is, will voters buy that narrative again? With battleground states like Pennsylvania, Texas, and Ohio relying heavily on energy jobs, this situation could have real electoral consequences. This story is still unfolding, but one thing is clear. Energy is no longer just about economics, it's about power. China's freeze on US LNG is a warning shot, and possibly a precursor to a new era of economic nationalism and strategic resource competition. It's also a reminder that no deal is safe in today's volatile geopolitical landscape. As Australia gains ground and China redraws its energy map, the US must decide how to respond, not just to protect its economy, but to defend its position in a rapidly changing world order. What do you think? Is this a short-term tactic by China or a long-term shift in global power? And how should the US and Donald Trump respond? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to LCC News for more in-depth coverage of the world's most important stories.